It's just gonna be, I'm gonna be dragging. Just know that.
I'll be dragging because I think I have to try to go see my mom on Saturday too, and it's my only day
Okay.
off
Yeah.
between like I have 2 on, 1 off, 3 on, and then I'm off for like 2 weeks.
Ooh,
But
nice.
yeah, but that this smashing my mic, this stretch coming is gonna suck.
Mm.
It's gonna suck. It's
I
gonna suck.
understand.
And I had 3 really good nights my last 3 shifts.
Hmm.
So I it just negative Nancy over here is like, bad shifts are coming.
Well, it's what happens.
Hmm.
Almost guaranteed. You know that already.
I mean, I know. I mean, I had some really the other week I had really 2 really bad shifts in a row. Like
Mm.
at the when I was sick, I just called out sick that one day, and then my
Oh
next
yeah,
2
that's
shifts
right.
were absolutely horrible,
Horrendous.
horrible.
Horrendous.
I was like, of course, like I'm half dead. Like I really should still be homesick, and like
Right. Exactly.
it's just a shit show.
You're so funny.
So it's always coming. It's always coming around the
It's a
corner. It's
good time. It's
lurking. It's
it's a good
lurking
time.
somewhere. The bad shift. It's
It's a good time in the land of Alyssa.
I'm just happy I have time off. So because
Yeah, much needed.
I need
Much
it
needed.
before I end up. I was saying to I was saying to my little friend Roger. He's not
Yeah,
little. He's like 6'5"
right.
or
Not so
7.
little. My
Not so little
giant
friend
friend.
Roger. My giant friend Roger. I was saying how I feel like I'm going to have like a mental breakdown, but I want to have a celebrity mental breakdown where I get to go to like a spa for like 3 weeks and come back better, and not like a regular person mental breakdown where you
Right. You
just have
want
to
to go
like
somewhere where
keep
you have
going.
cucumbers on your eyes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I want to go somewhere for my nerves for like three
Right.
weeks
Right. Exactly.
that
Yeah. Well,
isn't going back to work.
I I will not. This is the time where it gets hard because like I don't really take a lot of leave because I take a bunch of leave at the end of the year, running into the new year, take 2.5 weeks off. So I'm just counting down to December for that. So that's what I'm looking
Don't
forward to.
have that, but I think I'm off Christmas this year.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Score.
I think I work both New Year's holidays, so even
Hmm.
day, and Thanksgiving,
Okay.
which I don't care about any of those things. So
Yeah. Yeah. Score. I like it. I like it.
that's kind of nice. Yeah.
It is. It is.
So
Well, yeah.
what have you been
Yes.
reading?
All the things. All the things. I started
Still
a
all the
ton of
things.
French book.
You're just doing all the books that you're
I'm
really doing
doing
it.
all of the books. I'm just so excited. Now that I feel a little bit more settled after moving, like now I'm getting back into my groove. So I started In the Woods by Tana French, which is book one in what is it, the Dublin Murder series. And I'm just a little ways in, like, I don't know, a few chapters. But in this, we are trying to solve the murder of these three kids. And I personally like this is not fast paced. Okay. This is not fast paced. This is not like action packed. This feels like I'm watching a um a serial detective series. And I think that's why I'm loving it so much. I feel
Okay.
like things are explained really well. I feel like there's a lot of thoughtfulness in how the story is laid out, how the characters are built and described. I'm just enjoying getting these little bits of information page by page. For some reason, it feels very comforting to me. So I'm excited to see where the book goes. I'm happy that I just ordered the last missing book in the series that I did not have, which was A Faithful Place. I just ordered that, So I will have the complete series to keep going, but I'm really enjoying it. I like the tone, I like the people, and I want to know who the heck murdered these people. It's good.
Interesting.
It's good.
I I need to start that. I do think I have the whole series or
I
most
thought
of
you
it
did. I
through various means of acquisition. I think I have it all.
I found all of these at McKay. The only one that I did not find was book three, and that's I think that's a faithful place. But I just ordered that on Abe like the other day. So yeah, I like it a
Good.
lot.
I do need to, I don't know. I need to not work. I need to just read books all day.
I
So, how
know,
do we make that happen?
I
How do we
know.
make that happen, folks? We
How
need
do we make
to.
it happen? Let us know
How
if
do I
you read
become
this. Tana French is on Alyssa and I's list of authors. Like we were kind of hoarding her books or
hmm
whatever, and we've been talking about reading her for a while.
a long
So
time?
yeah.
Speaking of authors we've been hoarding, this is
Hmm.
not the book I've read recently, but we could just briefly talk about it. I did try my first trollop, and
Okay.
I was not impressed. And I
Whoa.
think it's because of where I started with Trollop, because everybody has been telling me, "Oh, that was a terrible place to start with Trollop," um, and they've given me other recommendations.
Well, hang
So
on. Where'd you start?
I started with the beginning of the Berkshire Chronicles, which is the
The
Warden,
Warden. Okay.
and I wanted to stab myself in the temple because I just don't care about church politics in Victorian England. And
Mm-hmm.
but it was like a bunch of like church member, like, people of the church, old men just sitting around and whinging, and I don't care.
Yeah.
Um, and I got through like half of it and I was like, oh, I'll keep going. And I was like, no, why are you keeping going? This is terrible. And it was like in the middle of boogers too. So it's
Mm.
like, what am I
Yeah.
wasting my time for reading this book that I don't care about? And then uh, I think I was told to start with The Way We Live Now. Is that the name of the title?
I don't know.
I
I
think,
am.
I
Oh yeah,
think,
that's the one I'm starting with.
yeah. So I'll have to try to find that. And maybe I'll redo it and see if I like Trollope. But that's not what I've been currently reading,
Well,
or
let me know
can
when
be
you
if you want
start.
me to.
Well, let's say, well, hold on. Let me know when you start. That is the first job that I bought because my girl Meredith, from that other podcast that I listened to, she talked about this book years ago. And I was like, oh, that sounds kind of good. And so that's the first one that I bought. But I also do have that other series that you're talking about. I have all the books in that one as well. But my plan was always to start with the way we live now.
I don't have it. I just went over and looked. I only have
Oh,
books from the two series. Um,
oh,
I don't think I have even the complete series. So I'll try to find it. It's also
okay,
probably on Project Gutenberg. So I
okay,
probably should be able to put it on my Kindle.
yeah.
Um, but that's what everybody was saying. And then there's another book that I was, because I got sent a video of somebody sort of breaking down where to start with Rob, and there is like a short book that's set in, and I could be wrong exactly where it's
Hmm.
set, but it's atypical for him. It's like set in like Prague or something, and talks
Hmm.
about like anti-Semitism in Prague, and his. I'm curious about that one. It just seems
Yeah.
like it'll be different and interesting.
Huh. Okay.
Maybe this will just be my. I recently read The Warden and I hated it. There we go. I'm not going to talk about another book right
Did
now.
you finish it?
No,
Okay.
I TNF'd it. I was like, screw this.
That's
But maybe
funny.
if I like read other trollops,
Hmm.
will, and I like them,
Yeah.
then I will feel better about reading it. You know what I mean? Like I'll be
Hmm.
like, okay, I can get through this book to be introduced to characters so that I can read the next book in this
Right.
series. Um, but I don't care about old men whinging. I just don't care.
Yeah.
Especially old churchmen. It's like
Right. This is going to be interesting. Okay. Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. Interesting. All right.
I also just don't know how many like Victorian men I can read. I feel like I
Fair.
do better with
Fair.
Victorian lady
Women.
writers.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Yeah. Well, that remains to be seen. You know, I always hear good things about that series, so
I
we'll
know,
see.
and everybody loves it. And I was like,
Yeah,
where's the love? I see no love.
maybe the next book will hit differently.
But it felt sort of validating to be like, to hear enough people be like, yeah, the warden isn't great. I
Well,
think
and
that was
sometimes
a
that first
that was
book
a
in the series isn't
bad
right.
choice. That was a
Mm,
bad introductory choice.
wow.
Anyway,
All right. All right. So that's your what you read recently.
that's what I've
That
read
works.
recently. We're just
That
gonna do it.
works.
We went in so far into this, and you're
It's
tired.
hey,
We're not doing another one. We're
that
good.
works for me.
We're
All
flying
right.
by the seat of our pants here, folks. That's how I get through life, and that if I'm 40, I've made it far enough. We're doing okay.
This is what's going on. This is what's happening. This is what's happening. All right. So, what we doing today? You came up with
Mm.
this. You came up with this idea. It's a good idea. I like it.
So I had this random idea about talking about some of the books that surprised us, like books that we read that we either thought we were going to hate or we never realized we were going to love as much as we do. And that just like really kind of came out of left field. And you're like, huh, that book's great.
Mhm.
So these are like the books that surprised us in a good way.
In a good way.
In
I
a
like
good,
that.
it's a
I like
positive.
that.
It's a positive video.
Yeah, it is.
Hmm.
Are
Hmm.
you starting?
Sure. I can start with. We can go at the top of the pile. It's
Okay.
fine. So uh, Stoner by John Williams,
Mm,
which is supposed to be a perfect novel. Um, it is. I picked it up because it's a New York Review of Books, and I will pretty much pick up any book that is published by them because I just find their catalog very interesting. And I will tell you that while I was reading this, I was not like super, oh my God, this is the best book ever. I was a little
mm-hmm.
bit more middle of the road. But since I've put this down and attempted to move on with my life, the amount of times I think about this book and the conversations I've had around this book in my review, like in this comment section of my review, have been so wonderful that this
Wow.
book has slowly grown on me. I still don't think it's a perfect novel. I think that the wife in this story is actually a much more compelling narrative, especially because it is left out. She's just kind of this, I don't want to call her crazy, but she's not a very reliable character. She's not put in a very good light. And I don't know if she's just a bad person or if there's more to her story that makes her the way she is and to behave the way she does and to do the things that she does because she doesn't get a voice because this is all about William Stoner. This is all about her
Yeah.
husband and his life. And you're seeing everything through his eyes. And it's really the story of a fairly mediocre man going through his life being a fairly mediocre person. And
Mm-hmm.
it sounds very impressive, but it's just a very, this is another one of those like things that I would categorize as a quiet novel.
Mm,
There are some salacious kind of things that happen in it, but even those are very like even keeled, like things that he does with his life. And even like the spicier aspects of his life end up being kind of muted in a way because he's just such a average guy.
right.
Um, but it is a really interesting sort of like snapshot of a period of time. There's things that I found very interesting. He's a person that came from uh, like farmers, and he goes and he wants to get an education. So he goes and gets an education, he gets to school, he becomes a professor. And you see this shift between being like the sort of blue collar, no education worker to being a white collar, educated person, and how that generational shift happens and the tension that can arise between, especially at this time period where we're like in the early 1900s going into World War I, and it's like talking. It made me think about so my grandfather was like the first person on my dad's side to ever go to college,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lot of kind of weird resentment around him being like the educated guy. um,
Yeah.
and is he trying to be better than anybody else?
Mm-hmm.
And but there's also still like familial love and other things. So it's this very complex thing to be the first person
Yeah.
to break out of the generational things you've been doing. So there's a lot in this little book, and I think about it too much, especially
I've never
considering
before
how
wanted to
much
read this until now.
I didn't know if I cared about it while I was reading it. But I really would love somebody who is skilled in writing lit fic to write their interpretation of his wife's life. I think
Ooh.
it would be very interesting to get her side of the narrative, like to write this and give her a voice that
Yeah.
she doesn't have in the story, because it is very interesting. It does very feel very much like she marries him to just kind of like get out of her house, and then that of course starts a whole,
Sounds about right.
it's not the best way to start a marriage,
Mm-hmm.
especially with a pretty mediocre dude. So yeah, it's interesting. Also, he's kind of a dick.
Why did you just make me want to read this book? I know about this book. I have never wanted to read this book until this very moment.
It's one of Jamie Lee Curtis's favorite books.
Oh, I love her.
And A Butcher's
Love
Crossing by him is supposed to also be very, very good and
her.
very
Mm-hmm.
different tone. And I need to get to that as well. He's like three like major novels. With this Butcher's Crossing and something else I can't remember.
I'm not
That
going to
like
tell you that I had Butcher's Crossing in my Amazon cart for like 3 years.
so I'll get to them all at one point. But yeah, Stoner.
Okay. Um. Okay. Okay. All right. Hear me out. Okay. I because it's a stack of books, but hear me out. What surprised me was the fact that I did not know that I love Portal Fantasy,
I
and
never read that one.
you could not have told me that I would be 1,000% committed and dedicated to this series in a million years, and that is the Wayward Children series by
I know
Shauna
you love this
Maguire.
book.
Okay. I didn't even know that I liked this until I read the first one, which was Every Heart a Doorway. Okay. The first time I read this, I bought the first four books. That was all that was out at the time. And I gobbled them up like candy. They are so fantastical, so magical, sometimes a little dark.
You love them.
I love them so much. So I bought the first four, I read those, devoured them, and then from every year on, I've pre ordered the next book. And right before the next book comes out, I reread the previous books every year. And I cannot tell you how much joy it brings me. So the Wayward Children series, they are these kids, teenagers, whatever, who end up in other places through some kind of a
Hmm.
portal. But it's the place where they are the most welcome, where they are able to be their true selves. And somehow they've been kicked out back into the quote unquote real world. And they end up at this school where the headmistress of the school helps them to cope with the fact that they've been kicked out of the place where they feel like they belong and back into the real world, with the hopes that perhaps maybe one day the portal will reopen to allow them back in. That's kind of how that works. And again, some of these stories are like really fun, some are really dark, some are really sad, but I am in love with this series. Surprise, surprise. You know what I mean? I just love it. Surprise. You know,
She does love them. She loves
I
them so
love them.
much.
I already have, the latest one pre-ordered, and I will read all of these again right before that new one comes out. It's just like Christmas. So that's the
So
Wayward Children
sweet.
series by Shauna Maguire.
Love you. Um, didn't realize how dirty this book is because of the way like it's printed. It's one of those soft covers.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but if we're gonna talk about portal fantasy,
Ooh.
I'll throw this one in there. Um, and that's The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern.
Oh God,
Now,
yes.
if you've followed me or this podcast for any amount of time, you've probably heard me rant about how much I hate The Night Circus. It's about a fucking clock. I hate this book. So I read this because Erin Morgenstern can write the shit out of a sentence. Okay.
Oh my
So I was like,
gosh,
I'll give
yes.
it a try. I love this. This book
Mm-hmm.
is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It I think about random things in it all the time. I think about like the honey sea. I think
Mm.
about the man and the married the moon. I I love this book. Is this book
Yeah.
an easy book to read? Not always. It takes some um brain power.
Yeah.
It's not like a light fluffy read, but
Right.
I love this. This was far superior in my opinion than the Night Circus, but that's not hard to do because the Night
Yeah.
Circus was trash. But I well written trash, but it was trash. I loved this. But I am also scared to reread it to find out that maybe I don't love it as much.
Oh, I have reread it.
I'm scared to reread it.
I who did I reread it with? I read it 2 years ago again with,
Me, I think.
was it you? Did we read it? I don't know. I thought it was Emma. I don't know, but I already reread it and I loved it just as much. I did. I loved it just
Maybe
as
I'll
much.
reread it.
Yeah. I loved it so much. So I had got it from the library and I loved it so much that before I went back to the library to return it, I bought myself a copy. And then I turned the library copy in after I bought my own. I was so in love with that story. It's just so wonderful. And I am going to read The Night Circus because I want to see if I feel the way you feel about that story.
You're gonna come out and be like, "This book is amazing."
Or I'm going to be like you and say, it's about an effing clock.
It's about a
We'll
fucking
see.
clock.
We'll see.
Don't tell me it's like some grit. It's about a clock. It's barely even about the circus. It is.
I wish we could just quickly pull that clip up and then throw it in there when you were having your rant about that book. That would be hilarious. Eh, I'm going to read it. We'll have a brief chat about it. But yes, yes,
It,
folks, read The
it
Starless
it is
Sea.
part of how I knew Jesus was one to keep because he also hated it, and it was given to him by some girl he was dating who was like, "This is my favorite book," and he was like, "Oh, I'll try that," and he saw me reading it, and he's like, "I fucking hate that book." I was like, "Guess what? I fucking am hating it too, but I'm gonna finish it."
Wow. Wow.
And
Okay.
now he lives here.
Okay. All right. My next one is truly a book that I think about often. It was a TBR Lowdown pick, and that is The Master and Margarita by Mikhail
Yeah.
Bulgakov. And I just did not know that I was going to love this book as much as I did. But man, I mean, I savored this book. I read a little bit of this book every day for that whole month. And I annotated the crap out of it because I mean, it was posing a lot of questions for me. And I mean, I was having a conversation with Mikhail just back and forth in this book. And I just loved it so much. It's a satirical novel about what? Power and corruption. The devil makes a visit to Soviet Moscow. And it's just like, it's funny. It's nuts. It's
It's a good
hilarious.
book.
It does make you think a little bit. It's just so well written. And I had a good time. And I think about it often.
It
So
is really good.
this is the Mira Ginsburg translation, but when we were at McKay, you put the other one in my cart, remember? Because I wanted
Hmm.
the other translation, and I think I'll read that one maybe next year at some point, just to see like how the two translations differ.
Have you read, is it The Heart of a Dog?
No.
I think that's what it's called. That one's really good. Um, that's what it's called. And it's kind of like a Frankenstein.
Oh, see, folks, all classics aren't bad. All classics aren't boring. This one is a doozy. It's just
So, oh, Heart of a Dog It's very short. It's like 100 and something pages. You should go read it. It is like it's bonkers, not quite as bonkers as Master and Margarita's
Uh-huh.
is, but it is bonkers. And it's kind of about this guy, and he ends up getting like the heart of a dog, and then he's like kind of it's
Oh,
straight up.
literal.
Yeah,
Got it. Okay. Okay. All right. Anyway, that's the Master and Margarita. Highly recommend it. All time favorite for sure.
it was really good. That one was
Yeah.
good. Um, let's talk about. I'm trying to pick which
Mm-hmm.
one I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll talk about this one. So I this is a book you love,
Okay.
and I was very scared to read it
Oh,
because I thought I was going to hate it. I thought it was going to be one of those times where you had an epic family saga, and you're like, Alyssa, read this epic family saga, and I was like,
because you know how I love them.
Naomi, I can't. I don't care anymore. There's too many people. This is too much. Why is this book so long? I hate this. That did not end up being the case, and that's The Eighth Life.
Yes. Yes.
I love this
Yes.
book. I love that it I love the setting. I love how the time periods it spans
Mm-hmm.
from like just at the break of the Russian Revolution to like now. I love the way that it's written as like just a narrative style. Uh I love how you see like things passed on through families and how like personalities and problems and things pop up in different characters in these families. Um, I also just like the end. I will never forget driving home and listening to this, the ending of this, being just terrified, terrified that something terrible is going to happen. Just absolutely like white knuckling it home.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Such a good book.
This was like the quickest 1,000 freaking page book I've ever read in my entire life.
Seriously, doesn't
It
it? It just
moves.
moves.
It just moves.
It does. You are never bored. Like the story is so interesting from beginning to end. It just sucks you right in, and
It was so good.
you are there for the ride. Listen, folks,
She
don't let that chunk scare you.
no,
Don't let it scare
that
you. That
chunk
book
is
is
good chunk.
fantastic. Yeah,
That is good chunk.
yeah. I
Mhm.
want to read her latest novel. It's not as big, right? I think it's like a
Mhm.
cool little 350, 400 page book. But at some point I'll probably get my hands on it and read that, see how it is. But I was very impressed with The Eighth Life.
This was very good.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was a little worried. I was like, oh, I want her to love it so much because it was so good. And you did love it. And that made me
I
so
did love
happy.
it.
That made me so happy.
It can get dicey sometimes.
I know, because you know me. I love a good family, generational saga, and I don't care if it's drawn out.
I do. At some point, you got to move, buddy. I got like time is money. Let's go. Move through that story.
But you liked it. Hooray. I remember
I
that was a good
loved it.
time. Yeah.
That was a good
Yeah. Okay. The next one is a real shocker. I mean, talk about a surprise. It's Chances by Jackie Collins. Okay.
time. Oh, the
Yeah.
Jackie Collins experiment.
Oh,
Yes,
let me tell you something. I'm looking forward to my vacay in December because I'm going to get back into this Lucky Santangelo series. Okay. I've missed my girl. I've missed my girl. Look, you girlies have your Colleen Hoover. That's fine. I've got my Jackie Collins. Okay. There you have it. So this is book one in the Lucky Santangelo series. And she's in a very wealthy family. She's very spoiled. And she's willing and dealing and doing stuff in the family business because her dad went to jail. She's got this brother who's so unserious. I think he's queer, and she has to clean up his messes and help him get his crap together. But I'm I fell in love with Lucky in this book. She is headstrong. She's very savvy. She's like no nonsense. Woman making moves in a man's world, and I cannot wait to see what else Lucky Santangelo does in this series. So it was a surprise. Who knew? I mean, I gobbled it up again like candy. Gobbled it right up. I bought more Jackie Collins stuff too. I found more books in the series, and then I got some
I
of her
found
other
you one at a
books.
little free library that I made
Yeah, you
Jesus
found me
stop
one or
at. I
two,
was
didn't
like,
you?
stop right now. And I randomly found you one.
Yeah, you sure did. And I have some of her other
Mhm.
books too that aren't in this series. So yeah, Jackie's my girl. Hmm. My girl.
Well, I'm gonna change pace a little bit, and we're gonna go to some YA fantasy that,
Ooh,
yeah, surprised me.
yeah.
I did not know that I would like this book as much as I did. I just thought it was like picking up a frivolous read, but Sorcery of Thorns
Oh,
was
yeah.
just such a shockingly good read. I enjoyed Elizabeth's and Nathaniel's little relationship. I enjoyed
Mm,
the magic. I love that she's like this like keeper in this magical library where there's grimoires that can like bite you, and like there's it's just it was so
wow.
fun and lovely and cozy kind of,
Mm.
and I love it. And then she did come out with like a little novella like companion, but I'm scared to read this because what if this
Oh,
doesn't hit the same?
yeah.
Also, why
Yeah,
this?
why? Why? Yeah, also the cover of A Sorcery of What Thorns is so pretty. I
Hmm.
love it so much. It's so attractive.
Hmm. It was just good. Like, is this earth shattering? Is this going to change the world? No. Okay, this isn't literary masterpieces, but this just felt so good while I was reading it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when I read about Lucky Santangelo.
Hmm. But one day I will read this. Maybe I'll bring it on our little like cabin vacation.
Oh, that'd be good.
Hmm.
That'd be good. Bring both, because if it's not great, then you could just reread A Sorcery of Thorns and feel good again,
Never
right?
mind. We're going back to this.
That's what we can do. All
Anything.
right.
One more. Let's go.
I have two more.
Oh, I have one more.
One, two, three, four. Okay. I've talked about this book before, but I mean, who I did not know I was gonna love it. Okay, it's Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. All right. Uh, didn't know I was gonna fall in love with a western. All right. It was a complete shock to me. I could not stop
She's a
reading this book.
cowgirl at heart.
Seriously, I could not stop reading this book. I was so invested in these people. This is basically a adventure story. It's a cattle drive going from what, Texas to Montana? Yeah, from Texas to Montana. There's love stories in here. It's it's just so good. This is also a series. This is book one in a series, and I do have the others, and I need to start those at some point. But I just had the best good old Texas Ranger Western time with this book.
We found me a copy, and I will tell you, I'm very scared to start that.
Oh my gosh, it's just so fun. I mean, some of the language may not be great, but I love this book. It is worth reading every single page. So I'm thinking I might read it again.
I'm so highly skeptical of me liking this book.
I think you're gonna hate it. I think you're gonna hate it. I think you're gonna hate it, but I want to read this again before I move on to the other books in the series. So I think I now have also three editions of Lonesome Dove because every time I see one, I buy it.
She buys one, and that's how you know she really likes it.
Yes.
All right. So my last one is another Naomi recommendation.
Oh my
You were like,
gosh.
you have to read this book, Alyssa, so that we can talk about this.
What
And
is it?
I legitimately think about parts of this book every day of my life. Burnt sugar.
Heck yeah.
I this mother-daughter relationship,
Wacko.
and I love it. So
Yeah.
relatable. I love it. I love that they like join a cult for some period of time. I love that she allegedly her hoo-ha doesn't smell of anything. How do you have an a, how do you have a hoo-ha that smells of nothing? Not it doesn't smell bad. No, it doesn't smell of anything. Nothing.
Right.
Nada. Zilch. It is a smelling
Right. Right.
without smell. What?
Right.
And I get that this is all part of her whole, like, she's got like all these hangups with like cleanliness after being in this cult with her mother and all this other stuff. I get that this, but like as a woman
Right, exactly.
reading that statement,
You're like, how, ma'am?
how,
How?
and you live in India, it's hot.
Very. Come on.
This is a
Yeah.
really, I did really love this. The mother daughter relationship in this is, I like messy mother daughter relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I find them more relatable. Um, Happy mommy daughter relationships are lovely to read, but not as really.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, but and you get dementia in here, and like taking care of somebody sort of reluctantly when you don't really want to take care of somebody. Um, there's a lot. It's in a lot in this little book, and it's not all just about hoo ha's not smelling, but it
Right.
is. So like literally, sometimes I'm just like in an elevator. I'm like, how did her hoo ha not smell of anything?
Yeah.
Burnt sugar. I finally found myself a copy,
Oh, that's
and
so good.
I was like,
Sometimes I read a book and it's like, I have to tell this about this immediately.
mhm.
Immediately. Yeah.
She's like, I'm gonna need you to read this so we can talk about it.
Yeah. Okay, my last one, super favorite. That is Leviathan Weeks by James S. A. Corey.
Ah, yes. I almost pulled those, but I was like, you know what? I'm not surprised that I like them.
I was like, I didn't read sci-fi as a kid. That was not my thing. And this series, this book in particular, is like, oh, you're really into space operas. This is your thing. This is what made me realize that.
What I found interesting is was watching somebody else, two booktubers talking about this,
Hmm.
and one of them had read it because the other one really likes the series, and she didn't like this, but she was interested in going on, and the other one was like talking about how this one's actually not very good,
A
and I'm
lot of
like,
people say
how is
that.
it not very
I
good?
loved it.
I love the sort of cliche detective story
Hmm.
nature of it. I thought that was a fantastic way to start a series.
Yeah, I have read this book 3 times. Three
You
effing
don't get it.
times.
I still have to finish. I'm like so scared to finish. I don't want it to
Oh,
end.
let me
And
tell
now I think
you,
I can get them all in paperback.
mine are, so I have all of them I have books 1 through 8 in paperback, but book 9, the final book, I have as a hardcover, and it's kind of annoying me because now it doesn't match. So I will get the paperback at some point, and then I want to buy the short stories, which I've read, but I don't own the collection, the binder that
Yeah,
they
I need to
made.
get 8, 9 and the short stories
Yeah,
in paperback. I think they're all now available in paperback. Um, yeah, it really irritates me when my series are in different formats. That one does
yeah,
bother me. I don't care what the format is. I just want them to all
right,
be the same format.
right, and this
Like
has good
I
flop.
yeah, it is a good flop book.
But this was it's a great series. I think about this series all the effing time, and
It's
I'm
a
probably
good
going to reread
book.
it next year because I miss the people of the Rosinante. I miss all the people. I miss them
Unos,
so much. So I'm probably going to like read this again next year at some point. It has my whole
Unos
heart.
is my husband.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
has my whole heart. I feel like it's a very consistent series, but that's my
Well,
opinion. I think it's very consistent.
speaking of things that irritated me, so I got my book of the month in, and they had the Fragile Threads of Power, right?
Oh
Vita Shep.
yes, you talked about that. Uh-huh.
So I was reading that this month. First of all, I did not realize how
It
chunky
is
it
a
got.
chunker, isn't it? It's a little
But
chunky. What is that? 450?
oh, I don't know. No, it's over 600.
Oh,
Um,
oh.
so if you see this crease, first of all, it came like
Oh, so
beat
it
up,
must have been like,
beat up
okay.
Naomi. And I got two other books in this box. They're perfect. They're pristine. Why is this one beat up?
Did
Also,
you send them
now,
a thing to customer service? Because they'll send you another one.
now, Naomi, I have this in hardback. My other ones are in paperback.
Oh, yeah.
And they did a change of covers.
Huh?
So you see this cover?
Yeah.
The other three have new covers that are in the same vein.
Oh, that's gonna really okay. That's gonna annoy you.
So I really need to
That's
like what I'll do is I'll just keep this, and then there is a paperback like UK version that looks more like the old
the others.
covers, and I think I might get that one.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But anyway, that has nothing to do with this. But those are our 10 surprise us in a good way books.
Yay!
Um,
Yes. Doesn't it feel good when a
yeah,
book surprises you? It really
it
does feel
is
good.
kind of nice when you're just kind of going into it and you're like, oh, all right, I'll read this book. Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Um,
All right.
I am realizing that I don't know if I have a recommendation for you.
Oh my.
Because
Surprise,
I don't.
surprise.
Surprise, surprise. I didn't do my job. Um,
She's like,
so
I didn't do my job.
I don't know. I
I
don't
didn't
know
do
what
it.
to tell you about. Uh, so you're gonna talk, and I'm gonna pick one at random
All right.
off the shelves.
I'm gonna recommend the book that I finished last week, and it was just released. It's out now. I don't remember that. It's out now. It's The Unsettled by Ayanna Mathis. Thank you, Kanal, for this copy,
Oh, I like
this
that
gifted
cover.
copy. Um, I, this is my. I think this is her second book. Her first book, I believe, yes, her first novel was The 12 Tribes of Hattie, which I did not read. So this is my first foray into Ayanna Mathis, and I read this book like in a day. It is very good. It's not a lot of pages. It's like a little under. It's like what 310, not even three. Oh, got 311. Um, so we meet Ava Carson, and she is the mother of a 10-year-old son named Toussaint, and she has just been. She's now estranged from her husband, and she ends up in this family shelter, and it is god awful. Everything about it is horrible. She's absolutely repulsed by it. Her son is totally stressed out about being in the shelter, and she is obviously trying to figure out how is she going to get out of here and like get back on her feet. She's also estranged from her mother. They don't have the best relationship, and she is going through some rough times, and so is her son Toussaint. Well, later on, Toussaint's father, Cass, comes back in the picture. And when I tell you, I wanted to scratch this man's eyeballs out of his head. I mean, I was like getting the nail sharpener ready, just like sharpening my nails because this man was so controlling. He was very much about the Black Power movement, one of the unite Black people and kind of building this like commune of sorts with people with social justice missions, but he was doing some really ill things to her, like making her stand in a corner because she wasn't listening to him, like weird stuff like that, like completely abusive,
Stabbing
right? And
in the eyeball.
right, and having like the bodyguards in the house like watch her every movement. She couldn't just leave the house. It was awful. He was really a terrible person, and um I was so into this book, and I was rooting for Ava so hard. I mean, like rooting for her. And the way it ended, well, I shouldn't say that because it's going to give something away. I'm just going to say that I like how Ayanna Mathis formed this entire story. I like the arc of Ava and her son Toussaint. It made sense to me. It felt right. Um, it didn't feel like everything was all tidy in a bow. It felt very realistic. Like, oh, I could see this happening to an actual person that I know. Like, it felt real. It didn't feel made up. I love this book so much. I am now wanting to read the 12 Tribes of Hattie, but this was amazing, and I highly recommend it. The Unsettled
Excellent.
by Ayanna Mathis.
Excellent. All right. So I pulled a book off the shelves.
Oh, good.
I guess this works in tandem with the whole idea of like books that surprised you or like you kind of can't stop thinking about. And I guess I'll throw in Lapvona, which
Oh,
is not like a for everybody recommendation. But if you like weird books that are unsettling and critical of things like the rich and religion and corruption, where those two meet, um, you might like this. It is very weird. I thoroughly enjoyed myself while reading it, closed the book, and went, "What the did I just read?" Um,
I love that.
it took me a while and several conversations to come up with like a full opinion on it. And I it's not my favorite Moshfegh, but I really like this. I know that a lot of people were
Mm.
sort of bad. Like it is a bit of a left turn from some of her other books in a
Yeah,
lot of ways, but it also isn't. It's still got this like weirdness that is very Moshfegh. Um, and this kind of like rawness to it. There's like I'm not gonna sugarcoat anybody, anything really. Like if I'm gonna talk about something, I'm gonna talk about it with all of its, you know, dirty, dark
yeah,
underbellyness of it. Um, it's very much like sort of a medieval uh you feel like you're in some sort of medieval show almost, like weird mini series. It's it's interesting. Where you have this main character, this young boy who's just beaten by his father. There's a king who also has a son, and there's sort of like a prince and the pauper kind of switching of places. There's a creepy old lady that breastfeeds the entire town. There's like a lot of things in this book that's strange and bizarre, and it was really good. I need to reread this honestly.
mm,
This yeah, I feel like if this sounds if you've read it and you're like, "Oh, I'll give that a try." Give it a try. It's definitely like worth the experience. It's worth reading with other people to talk about it.
right.
Because it's so weird. But yeah, Lapona.
Yeah,
Oh, there we go. Yeah,
yeah.
I
Okay,
got a book for you. I figured out a book.
there you did it. You did it.
I did do it.
Wow. I know.
Anyway,
Look, I just had to pull mine. During our last
yeah.
break.
Don't worry. Our next episode is of our recording doesn't require us to pull
I
that many books.
know we got this one out of the way. Yay! All right.
Anyway, I need like a cracker and a minute.
Yes.
So, do you have any final thoughts?
My final thoughts are review us on Apple Podcasts. Please and thank you.
If you're watching
And
the
join our
video and you're
Discord.
not subscribed,
Right. And join our video our Discord and our Patreon. Please and thank you. We've got a nice group of people over there and just building our little community of readers and join us. It's a good time. It's a good time. Yeah, that's all I have.
it is.
Okay. All right, that's gonna do it for us. We're out of here. Bye.
Bye.